Hey everybody, how's it going today? Let's talk more Seahawks safeties. We talked about Jamal Adams a couple days ago, discussed what his eventual contract extension might look like, and went into exactly why no, it's not going to be as bad as you think and why we need to do it now. Today, we're going to take a look at our other starting safety, Quandre Diggs, and I'll kind of be looking at this from the opposite perspective. So, Quandre Diggs is entering the final year of his deal, and he has made it known through Twitter that he does want a new contract. Now, there's nothing wrong with wanting a new contract. Every player in the league at this point would want a new contract because with every new contract you get more money per year, and more guaranteed lock it up money. So there's nothing wrong with him wanting a new contract. If I were a player in the NFL playing any position at any point in my career, I would want a new contract too. However, the question is, should the Seahawks, the team that has to worry about their interests and not just the interests of their players, should they give him the extension this offseason? Or do they let him play out the final year of his deal and go from there? And I feel like the answer to that question is pretty clearly the latter. And let's talk about why. Okay, so who is Quandre Diggs as a player? Well, if you take a look at how he made a name for himself last year by making his first ever career Pro Bowl, it's pretty clear why he got there. He had 5 interceptions. It wasn't a tremendous year for the free safety position in the NFC, and 5 interceptions and starting on a defense that got the 3 seed and won 12 games was apparently good enough. 64 tackles. Yeah, they decided, you know what, this is the best we can do. It's not a season that'll blow anybody away. It's not a season that'll amaze anybody, but he did his job. He did it well. He made plays on the ball, and it earned him a Pro Bowl berth. But here's the thing. We're not really seeing too much else here, are we? 64 tackles is fine, especially for a free safety playing with guys like Jamal Adams, but it's not blowing the doors off anybody. No tackles for loss, no hits on the quarterback, no sacks. He's not giving you anything in those terms. That's not how we use him. Granted, that's obviously understood. We don't use him that way, and we shouldn't use him that way. But at the end of the day, he's giving you a guy who can protect the deep zones. And if you take a look at his coverage numbers, you'll find a guy who, pretty good, gives up maybe 20 to 25 yards in coverage a game on average, I would say. 67% completion is not ideal, but it works perfectly fine. 2 touchdowns allowed. Yeah, this guy had a good season, and him making the Pro Bowl is reasonable. But here's the thing. Quandre Diggs, let's go through his game-by-game log, and let's remember the 5 interceptions that he got, because I can remember all 5 of them pretty vividly. You can find them on YouTube if you really want to go look at them again, but I'll run it down for you. Week 1 in Atlanta, interception on the last defensive play of the game on a Hail Mary when Atlanta was just trying to quickly score a touchdown so they could do an onside kick. It was a pretty meaningless interception. He could have batted it away, and the game result would not have changed at all. He could have knocked it to Julio Jones for a touchdown, and the game's and final result would still not really have changed all that much. They would have needed to recover an onside kick. It was a garbage time interception. And then in week 6, he had another one against Arizona. I remember this play. Kyler Murray threw the ball right to him. Don't know what Kyler was thinking on this play, but I remember this interception very clearly. Kyler just chucked the ball right to where Quandre Diggs was and where no receiver was. Week 11 against Philadelphia, he has his 3rd interception. I think we remember this one. Carson Wentz just decided, I feel like completing a pass to Quandre Diggs right now. I don't like any of my receivers enough to throw them the ball, so I'm going to throw the ball to Quandre Diggs. I'm going to pretend he's my receiver. Going to throw the ball right to him. Against the Giants the next week, he has another interception, bounces off of Evan Ingram's hands and goes right into his hands. I mean, they're plays on the ball. I can't complain. We've seen guys like Earl Thomas drop interceptions like that all the time. We've seen Byron Maxwell drop interceptions that hit them in the hands all the time. But again, these are not exactly interceptions where you're going to take the ball away, where you're preventing a big play, where you're doing anything spectacular. You're catching a ball that the quarterback just, I don't even know what he was thinking, or where the receiver just completely screws it up. And then final interception of the season against the Rams. I remember this one as well. Goff tries to throw against his body, running the other way, doesn't get enough on it. Ball flutters right into Quandre Diggs' hands. Again, I'm not saying these interceptions don't count. I'm not saying they're meaningless. I appreciate these interceptions very much. But the bottom line is, every interception he made was either garbage time, a terrible throw, or a pass that bounced off a receiver's hands. So there's a lot of coming out on the good side of the randomness of the NFL here. And if Quandre Diggs plays a full season in 2021, there's a pretty good chance he will not have nearly this many interceptions. And because of that, he will not get nearly the same recognition and probably not make the Pro Bowl. However, in 2020, that's what happened. He got these interceptions and he made the Pro Bowl. He actually started in the Pro Bowl at free safety, which I think is something of an indictment of how weak the position was in the NFC last year. But he had a good season. He deserved it. But if you take a look at the All-Pro team for 2020, he's not first team. Honey Badger, Minka, and Buda Baker were here. He's not second team. Jamal Adams and Jesse Bates are down there. So it doesn't seem like the All-Pro team felt he deserved quite the same recognition that he got from the voters of the Pro Bowl. And if you go to PFF, they liked him. They think he had a pretty good season. 64.2 is not a bad grade, but it's not indicative of a Pro Bowler or an All-Pro or a great player or one of the best players in the league at his position or anything like that. It's just a decent starter. So Quandre Diggs is good, has a chance to be very good. I think in 2019, when he did play, which was not much, he actually played really well. But there were some things that happened in 2020 that probably made him look a lot better than he actually was. There were probably a lot of play-to-play things that Diggs was not doing great in that were somewhat masked because he got 5 interceptions somewhat deceptively. But he did make the Pro Bowl, and you're going to have to pay him Pro Bowl type money. So what does that mean? So in order to kind of figure this out, I went back through recent NFL seasons, 5 or 6 years, approximately. And I wanted to take a look at players who were like Quandre Diggs and how they played and how they performed the year before they got their contract extension. So I found 4 examples, and we're going to go through them. We're going to dissect them, and I'm going to try to project what a current Quandre Diggs extension would look like. If you extended Quandre Diggs right now, he would be able to go into the negotiation room and say, I just made the Pro Bowl. I had 5 interceptions leading the team. One of the league leaders, actually. Crazy as that might sound, 5 interceptions was a lot last year. You got to give me money commensurate with my Pro Bowl status. Whereas if the randomness of football goes against Quandre Diggs in 2021 and you get him having another good season, but maybe he doesn't splash, maybe he doesn't get 5 interceptions, maybe he gets more like 2 because quarterbacks aren't throwing the ball right to him this time, maybe you can come into the negotiating room from a slightly different place, where he's not coming off a 5 interception season, where he's not coming off a Pro Bowl, where he's going to be able to have some negotiation leverage. So here are some examples I found of players who kind of made me think of Quandre Diggs in these terms. Okay, 2015, and we're going back kind of far here, I understand, but again, we have to take a look at how the salary cap has climbed the ladder, and we also take a look at how the contracts of good players has climbed as well. So, Kurt Coleman started for the Panthers at safety in 2015. The defense that was, I think, number 1 or number 2 in the league and went to the Super Bowl. He played 15 games, had 90 tackles, 9 pass deflections, 7 interceptions. He actually had 2 more interceptions in the playoffs. Great year for Kurt Coleman. He covered the deep zones and he took away deep passes and he made a lot of plays on the ball, and 7 interceptions later, plus 2 more in the NFC title game. It makes a lot of sense why he would have been a bit of a hot commodity going into that offseason. So, if you take a look at after 2015, he signed an extension with the Panthers, 2016, 3 years, 17 million, average salary of a little less than 6 million. So that was the approximate going rate for a really good safety who did a great job taking away the ball and helping your defense protect the deep zone. Okay, let's go to 2016 and let's look for Quinton Demps. Houston safety, 13 games, 6 interceptions, 9 passes deflected. Pretty Quandre Diggs like, don't you think? His name even has the same initials. Not a ton of tackles, not a lot of work in the backfield, 2 tackles for loss, no sacks. He's just a guy who makes plays on the ball and protects the deep zone for the most part. So Quinton Demps had a nice season for Houston. He missed 3 games, which probably hurt his value a little bit, but he deserved to get paid going into 2017. And what did he get in 2017 was a contract with the Bears. About $4.5 million a year, 3 years, 13.5. So we're seeing these safeties kind of go in the $4 to $7 million a year range for 3 years. Pretty decent baseline to use for this era of football. Now let's jump ahead a few years to a couple more players that I found that got the wheels turning in terms of, hey, I can compare this guy to Quandre Diggs in that they kind of do similar things and they kind of play at a similar level. Pro Bowl, borderline Pro Bowl, a lot of interceptions. That's how they make their name basically. So we're going to take a look at 2 players from 2019. First guy is Anthony Harris, and the next guy is Devin McCourty. Again, none of these comparisons are going to be 1-to-1, but these are the closest comps I can find from recent NFL history that I think provide some contract-related context. Okay, so Anthony Harris played 14 games for the Vikings in 2019, 60 tackles, very little action in the backfield, no sacks, and 1 tackle for loss, but he made plays. He made plays on the ball and made plays down the field, protecting the deep zones. 6 interceptions, 11 pass deflections, very Quandre Diggs-like. What happened to Anthony Harris in the 2020 offseason? He got hit with the franchise tag. 1 year, $11.5 million. So you're seeing this safety who is good, who played very well, who did a lot of good stuff in order to earn some money. Look at how much the salary jumped. Because Anthony Harris was not considered to be the best safety in the league at any point in his career, not even necessarily one of the best. He was considered to be very good at certain points of his career. He wasn't even considered the best safety on his team. Harrison Smith has been the dude down there, so it's actually very comparable to what we have right now in Seattle with Jamal Adams. And Anthony Harris got a franchise tag that would pay him $11.5 million for 1 year. So you can kind of see how the price tag on these good to really good safeties who protect the deep zone and take the ball away skyrocketed from 2015 and 2016 to 2019. And then we take a look at Devin McCourty. Same kind of deal here. 58 tackles in 16 games, only 2 TFLs, not a lot of work in the backfield up near the line of scrimmage, but 5 interceptions, 7 pass deflections. He was making plays on the ball down the field. He was making plays in coverage. Very Quandre Diggs-like. What did he get coming off of 2019? Well, 2020, he signed a 2-year, $23 million deal. So again, average annual value of $11.5 million. And one thing with Devin McCourty is he's a lot older than Quandre Diggs is right now when he signed this contract. Or, well, 2 years, which is an eternity in the NFL. So we're seeing 2 safeties here who are good. These are good safeties. These guys have played at a Pro Bowl or close level at points in their career. But you wouldn't have called them the Jamal Adams, Buda Baker, Justin Simmons level super duper stars. They're just very good at doing their job, kind of like Quandre Diggs. And they got paid 10 figures. They got paid north of $11 million a year. So the reality is, while the Jamal Adams extension is probably less than you were thinking, the Quandre Diggs extension is not really going to be that much less. It's going to be more than you're thinking, and it's probably going to be more than we're comfortable with. I have to believe that if we extended Quandre Diggs this offseason, coming off his Pro Bowl appearance and 5 interceptions, you're looking at 3 years, 35 million. 3 years, 36 million. Maybe you go as low as something like 3 years, 30 million, just because the cap went way down this year. But I don't know how big of an effect that's going to have on a Pro Bowler. Maybe there's a universe where he takes a 1 year extension because he wants to get a new deal after the cap goes up, but it's going to be some money. So my suggestion with Quandre Diggs would be we know Quandre Diggs is good. We know he's good. And if we want to keep him next year, we're going to have to pay him some money. But why don't we see if he can do it again? Let's see if he can make the Pro Bowl again. Let's see if he can have another season where he leads the team in interceptions and makes a lot of plays on the ball. Because again, some very fortunate stuff happened to him last year to get him to 5 interceptions. If he can repeat that success this year, maybe doing it through more taking the ball away rather than having it handed to him, then maybe we can say, hey, you know what? This guy actually is worth the 12 million a year he's probably going to be looking for, and we'll probably get one way or the other. But let's say he has a season where he's just good. He takes away deep passes, he protects the deep zone, he's the last line of defense out there. He does a good job at it. He maybe makes a couple interceptions, but he doesn't do anything that gets him any Pro Bowl credit. Okay, cool. Then you've still got a good player who suddenly doesn't have that leverage. You can keep him for maybe 7 or 8 million a year. Maybe it's even going to be a 2 year deal with an easy out after one. You can kind of pay him by the year almost. But I'm telling you, if you extend him right now and he goes into that negotiation room with the leverage of being a Pro Bowler and a dude who had 5 interceptions, it's not going to be pretty. You're going to be paying him at least 10 mil a year. I would say for at least 3 years because he's relatively young. All right, that's my take on the Quandre Diggs situation. I would make him play his 2021 season on the last year of his deal, and then we see what's up next offseason with him. I think it's possible we could keep him. It kind of depends on how well he plays. But I think to a certain extent, what he did in 2020 kind of represents the best version of himself. He got a lot of things going his way in 2020 that made him look maybe a little better than he actually was, especially because taking the ball away is one of the most noticeable things you can do as a defensive player. And he did that a lot in 2020. If he repeats it in 2021, then hey, he's going to get paid and he deserves it. But maybe he won't. And maybe you can keep him for something around 3 years, 21 million, or 3 years, 24 million. But you do it this offseason, I'm telling you, I'm smelling 3 years, 35. Let me know what you think in the comments. What would you do with Quandre? Let me know how you feel. See you guys later. Go Hawks.